Okay, I guess this is part two. I thought it was shorter than I thought. Wednesday, August the 4th, 2021, and right now it's 3:45 p.m. Time flies. Well, let's continue to listen to this little review of this mess. It's kind of like having a little peek into the mind of the whites.
Too much money. Of course, that doesn't sound like a problem to you and I. Would love to have that problem. But for the banks, it is a problem. Because you see, when you deposit money in your bank account, it is accounted for as a liability for the bank. Because banks make their money from making loans. But the cash that you and I deposit, it is counted for as a liability for the bank. Furthermore, too much cash is a problem for banks because holding too much cash will also increase their liability to meet regulations. In this case, we're talking about SLR. No, not the car. I know it is a car, but we are talking about the supplementary leverage ratio. This is part of the reforms, quote-unquote reforms, that the government enacted after the financial crisis of 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010, and it goes on and on and on. At least the Fed's cocaine operation, the easing, keeps going on and on and on. What is the problem with SLR? The problem is if banks have too much cash in their balance sheets, they're going to have to increase the requirements, the minimum requirements of reserves to meet regulations. If you have more cash, you're obligated to have more reserves. And those reserves, by the way, are called ghost money. Ghost money, meaning you can't even use it. It doesn't do anything to you at all. It just sits there to meet the regulatory requirements. That's all there is. It's a waste of space for banks. And therefore, once again, the problem of too much cash. What do we do with all of this cash? Oh, did you say lend it? Is that what you said? Lend it? Okay, here's the problem. Remember a few weeks ago.
Capitalism is synonymous with speculation. Speculation, like, I mean, if there is one barrel of oil, one physical barrel of oil, I mean, it's like people, they imagine there's a barrel. No, that's just a measurement. It's a measurement of crude oil. And so for each barrel of oil, physical, there's like 500 on paper being traded on all the different whatever platforms, whatever they call it. I forgot how you say that in this language, but that's all it is. So you want me to believe that they have actually that this is scam over a scam over a scam. This is why we are playing like like what do you call it, like Jenga. Kind of like you put a little bit over here, a bit over here, and like they don't care. They don't care because at the end of the day they can say like, oops, another crashed. There was no consequences in the 1920s. I mean, in 1920s, 1930s with the Big Depression. That now we know that it was all manufactured. Anyway, people believe what they want to believe.
We got earnings from Bank of America, and the stock traded down big after earnings. In the earnings report, something very important caught my attention. Here it is. Bank of America struggles with tepid loan income as consumers shun debt. Remember, the zombie population, us, we use the stimmies for entertainment, to buy stuff, to pay our credit cards, and we deposited the leftovers in our bank accounts. So we don't need any more cash. We got a problem. Too much cash. We don't want more loans? No thank you. When you look at the commercial side says we got bailout money, the Fed is buying our bonds, and the maniac retail investors push the value of our stocks to the stratosphere. No thank you, we're flushed with cash, we don't need any more loans. Okay, so what do you do now if you're the bank with this dilemma, the too much cash dilemma? Well, here comes the Fed to the rescue. The Fed spots the problem and says, you know what, we're going to increase our interest rates in the reverse repo operation. And that will incentivize all of these banks to park their cash, all of that excess cash, right back at the Fed to capture the higher interest rates. Before we start, what is reverse repo, by the way? It is reverse repo. Repo, say a hedge fund says, you know what, Fed, here's my treasuries. You can hold on to them for a while, but I need some cash. You got to spot me over here. I give you my bonds, you give me cash. And then I return the cash to you with an interest rate. It is called the repo rate, and then you give me my bonds back. That's the bond market. That's the repo market. Reverse repo is exactly the reverse of what I just described because it is called reverse repo. Just in case you haven't figured it out yet. The bank has a problem, too much cash, decides to park the cash in the Fed in exchange of bonds. And then the Fed pays the bank an interest rate. It is called reverse repo rate. And by now, you might have heard the stories. The reverse repo market is blowing up once again, and the volume reached over $1 trillion. So what happened? The record volume came after the Fed last month made a technical adjustment the interest rates it manages, raising the rate that paid banks on excess reserves, AOER, held at the Fed to 0.15% from 0.10%, and lifting the rate paid on reserve repos to 0.05% from zero. And of course, this is a no-brainer for banks. They're going to use the reverse repo facility to take advantage. They have too much cash, and this is the solution for now. But there is another problem here, because remember the problem of too much cash for banks? Well, even after $1 trillion in the reverse repo market, they still have the same problem, too much cash. And it keeps on coming, more cash deposited in banks. And here's the problem. Remember the debt ceiling? Well, now we have one, and we are way above it. And here's the headline. Treasury to deploy, quote-unquote, extraordinary measures after Congress misses debt ceiling deadline. Congress missed the Saturday deadline to raise or suspend the debt ceiling. The debt ceiling, which is currently around $22 trillion, is the legal limit on the total amount of debt that the federal government can borrow on behalf of the Republic. According to the Committee for Responsible Federal Budget, CRFB, it applies to both the $16.2 trillion held by the public and the $5.9 trillion owed by the government. If the debt ceiling is not raised or suspended, the U.S. government can no longer issue debt and will soon run out of cash on hand. But remember, Neil Kashkari said, we have an infinite supply. Don't worry about it. We got an infinite supply of cocaine at the Federal Reserve.
How exploiting IRS code 408M3 can pay you.
In 2019, former President Donald Trump suspended the nation's borrowing limit for 2 years. But that suspension expired on Saturday without any congressional action, forcing the Treasury Department to take what are known as, quote-unquote, extraordinary measures so the government can continue to pay its obligation.
Wait a minute. It said in 2019, former President Donald Trump suspended the nation's borrowing limit for 2 years. But that suspension expired on Saturday without any congressional action, forcing the Treasury Department to take what are known as extraordinary measures. So the government can continue to pay its obligations. Wow, so that sounds very patriotic. I didn't know it was him. I thought it was like... I thought it was the Demon Rats who did that. So he actually, tied his hands up instead of getting a loan. Wow, that's something I did not really hear in the media, you see.
Why is this a problem, by the way? You just keep talking here, bro. I'm bored already. Get to the point. Here's the point, bitch. Extraordinary measures the Treasury takes include a range of items, such as halting contributions to certain government pension funds, suspending state and local government serious securities, and borrowing for money set aside to manage exchange rate fluctuations. According to the CRFB, the department also said it would have $450 billion in cash on hand, starting in August. Why is this number important? The $450 billion. Here it is. The U.S. Treasury needs to run down its cash balance in the Treasury General Account, the TGA. This is their account in the Fed. They need to reduce that account to $450 billion to meet the debt ceiling. Right now, the cash balance is $711 billion. At the time of the writing of this article, it was $711 billion. But the Treasury Department says, rest assured, we're going to meet the $450 billion target by the beginning of August. Here's the catch, and the most important one. A TGA reduction increases reserves in the banking system, which have now flowed into the RRP market, the reverse repo market. When the Treasury reduces the cash balance in their TGA, it increases the cash balance in the banking system, meaning that the banks are now having the same problem, too much cash. And therefore, we saw the blow up in the reverse repo market reaching over $1 trillion in volume, because there is a lot of cash, and the Fed believes that they're going to act like a black hole to clean the solar system out of excess cash. It doesn't work this way. Perhaps this is the bigger problem and the point of this video. Everything looks hunky-dory right now in the reverse repo market, right? No problem. We don't have to worry about anything right now. Our politicians, they create drama and all of that, but at the end of the day, they're going to come to an agreement. They have to raise the debt ceiling or suspend it once again. You have the perfect excuse to suspend, not just raise, suspend the debt ceiling. And it is called Delta. But the main concern is, for the Fed, that is, you can say that the Fed ushered the tsunami of liquidity, excess tsunami, but inflation will be...
It says right here, though few have noticed, the central bank is already slowing the growth of the money supply. This is I asked them, why is there so much cash? Is it like people are returning it from overseas? This is something that is like top secret. Nobody talking about that, how people are turning into, just buying gold or silver, or any other stuff than buying dollars. People are losing trust in green currency. Is that how the Fed is hedging its inflation bet? And this was in the Wall Street Journal opinion section.
Transitory because the Fed has the vacuum machine, the black hole machine, and it can suck out, to suspend, not just raise, suspend the debt ceiling. And it is called delta. But the main concern is, for the Fed, that is, you can say that the Fed ushered the tsunami of liquidity, excess tsunami, but inflation will be transitory because the Fed has the vacuum machine, the black hole machine, and it can suck out the excess liquidity from the system. The problem is, what if inflation is already born and it is out there doing its thing? That will push the market rates higher. And if that happens, boy, we are in big, big trouble. This is a great piece written in the Wall Street Journal today. How the Fed is hedging its inflation bet. Though few have noticed, the central bank is already slowing the growth of money supply. In monetary policy, as in all else, actions speak louder than words. The Fed has expanded its reverse repo borrowing to an unprecedented $1.26 trillion at the end of June from $272 billion in April, pulling almost $1 trillion of liquidity out of the financial system. Reverse repo borrowing has reduced bank reserves, even as the Fed has continued to buy treasuries and mortgage-backed securities, aka the cocaine operation. The Fed's
I thought we wasn't able to borrow any money. Didn't you just hear what the other guy said? It's driving you crazy.
perhaps attempted
Listen again.
billion in April, pulling almost $1 trillion of liquidity out of policy. As in all else, actions speak louder than words. The Fed has expanded its reverse repo borrowing to an unprecedented $1.26 trillion at the end of June from $272 billion in April, pulling almost $1 trillion of liquidity out of the financial system. Reverse repo borrowing has reduced bank reserves, even as the Fed has continued to buy treasuries and mortgage-backed securities, aka the cocaine operation. The Fed is perhaps attempting to create a replica of its past success in the previous crisis when they used the vacuum machine, and guess what? It worked. They printed money out of thin air, billions and billions and billions, and they sucked it out of the system, and ta-da, no inflation at all. You see inflationistas and the FUD bros, no inflation. Keep screaming and yelling, we're gonna have inflation. Where is inflation? There is no inflation. Thank you to the vacuum machine. And now the Fed is attempting to use the vacuum machine once again.
What do you mean there's no inflation? Everything is so expensive. Everything. And I got charged yesterday for a lime. I got charged 50 cents. In the hood, in the ghetto. I mean, I had like 50 cents for one lime. Okay, and that's just the prices that they've been around. The last 6 months, everything have gone up in price. And he said there's no inflation. Where he get this shit from?
Rid of the excess liquidity in the system, hoping that they will avert the inflation crisis once again. The problem is no inflation. Keep screaming and yelling, we're going to have inflation. Where is inflation? There is no inflation. Thank you to the vacuum machine. And now the Fed is attempting to use the vacuum machine once again to get rid of the excess liquidity in the system, hoping that they will avert the inflation crisis once again. The problem is, what if it's already too late now? When the Fed increased its securities holdings between 2008 and 2014 from $900 billion to $4.5 trillion, many economists predicted inflation only to be proved wrong. They were wrong because the Fed offset its securities acquisitions by borrowing $2.6 trillion from the banking system over the same period. As a result, the M2 money supply grew at a tame 7% a year. Reverse repo works, but here's the problem. Since March 2020, the Fed has responded to the pandemic shutdown by buying $4 trillion of securities, producing a 94% increase in its already inflated balance sheet. With interest rate on reserves competitive with short maturity treasuries, banks have held most of the resulting increase in interest-bearing reserves, effectively sterilizing the bulk of the impact of the Fed's securities purchasing. But the Fed injection of new money into the banking system from the Fed's security purchases exceeded, pay attention, exceeded the expansion of reserves. So the money supply grew 3 times as fast in 2020 as it did in 2008 during the financial crisis. The question is it too late to use the vacuum machine? Mr. Powell assures us that the inflation spike is temporary and interest rates won't rise until 2023. Yet the Fed has raised both the interest rate it pays on reverse repo borrowing and on reserves. If market interest rates start to rise, the Fed must raise the rate it pays on reserves and reverse repo borrowing, engage in huge open market security sales, or raise reserve requirements to stop the money supply from exploding as banks use the overhang of excess reserves to increase lending. Pay attention here. The good news is that the Fed is already using its capacity to borrow in the reverse repo market to reduce money supply growth, but the excess reserves of the private banking system are still almost $4 trillion. Ta-da! The bad news is that if the inflation problem doesn't go away and market interest rates start to rise, the reserve overhang has the potential to cause money supply eruption. The use of any of the Fed's powers to stop the growth in the money supply and inflation will only send interest rates higher, meaning the inner loop where the so-called tools keep backfiring. And this is the disaster scenario. And with that lovely bedtime story, folks, I'll say thank you for listening and good night. We're done here, but I know the story turned a little dark. What?
Yeah, because everything bad is dark. You know, now they're like shameless, you know, racist. Like everything is like, you know, oh, the black sheep of the family, the black market, the black this, the black that, and it's like, anyway, people, I mean, I see mostly the trend is to bury our head in the sand. You know, that's I see that, and I think people are not shopping. I mean, like, I guess I don't know what happened to all the money that they got. I know there was up to, in some states, there was given up to $800 a week unemployment benefits in cash. So I think in New York it is $600. So I mean, which is like a lot more than people was making when they was working their asses off. The transportation system is not even, you know, halfway to the capacity it was transporting people 2 years ago. I mean, or like before, you know, the scam demic, you know, like, but the service is horrendous. There's feces everywhere, just like, I mean, garbage, you know, like, and people are not really even helping. I'm gonna show you a little bit right here. You see, people are fed up, people are angry, people, they don't give a fuck. This is a brand new park. Somebody told me the other day, it was like, it's been only here not even 4 years. Not even 4 years, and it's already, you know. Look, I cannot show you over there. They cut it, some of the branches. That was like 3 days ago. They're still there. Nobody come to pick them up. But they left the scissors. They left them over there. I took a picture and I show it to the Twitter account of Parks and Recreation, whatever it's called. You know. Yesterday on my way home, I passed over there on 182nd Street and Grand Concourse. They had already put on a stage, kind of like a mini stage, but it was a real stage. It was not that small. One of the portable stages, you know, speaking of Parks and Recreation. So I guess it was going to bring an artist or something, music, you know, to stop people from, you know, spiraling down, I guess. I mean, just cray. And, you know, the craziest thing is that I don't see people adjusting to these times. I don't see people, you know, I feel like people, they still got the same mindset, you know, selling garbage online, selling, you know, like whatever, like, I don't know, I guess people are still buying them, I don't know. I guess people, I felt something in my head. I guess people, you know, they still, obviously people still buying bullshit, but for how long? For how long? Everything is imploding. Everything is imploding. I mean, like, you see a lot of, more and more, you see, I mean, I look online, you know, how, you know, for example, like men are just fed up of our lying. You know, this is why I was like, damn, I always get so much attention wherever I go because, you know, I don't wear makeup. You know, I'm planning on starting to. You know, obviously because, you know, I mean, not makeup, you know, just a little foundation to even out, you know. And I mean, it is tremendous difference. You know, I put a little bit of foundation and like, wow. You know, people are like, they appreciate, you know, at least, you know, like, well, there's no freaking surprises here, you know. There's no, like, a lot of, like, there's no prosthetics, there's no, you know. But I see more and more women totally unrepentant and continue to, you know, show on social media fake. You know, I don't know. I cannot wait until that freaking fake shit go away. and we start rejecting all that shit, you know, like we gotta reject all the shit that is fake. Deception, you know. I guess you can start with high heels. You know, I mean, where to start? You know, it's like, we can start everywhere. Oh, I forgot, you know, I found this newspaper from August the 2nd, Monday, August the 2nd. You see, like, the trend continue, you know. Given the cover. Who is to say that it's not the same pigs that are, you know, orchestrating this? But what got my attention, you know, I was gonna throw it out. I was like, I haven't even looked at it. I thought it was like, well, it's like more of the same. But it says, city condemns. The city condemns. Is that what the city do? Now it's just like, oh, we condemn this and that. No, you're supposed to, you know, find out who did it, why they did it, get to the root of the problem so it don't happen again. And, you know, you're supposed to deliver justice, right? Oh, no. No, it said, city condemns cowardly gangsters who injured 10 in Queens mass shooting. Injured. This was injured. And of course they put a Chinese pig on the cover, because that's who they care, you know, that's who got all the money, it got all the resources. I read a lot of African Twitter every day, and somebody was saying, you know, and I thought it was like spot on. It was like, nobody liked the damn Chinese, nobody, but they couldn't care less. Because they got the control, they got the pen by the handle. They got, you know, it's like, they couldn't give a damn if we like them or not. They don't even attempt to learn to speak English. And if you talk to them and say, like, oh, me no speak English and whatever, they don't give a damn. They don't want to be liked. They don't want to be nothing. Because, you know, they got all the power. It's like, they say, like, bitch, you know, I flood all your stores with my garbage that produce tons of garbage, you know, that you losers, taxpayers, you gotta pay to clean it up. We gotta pay to clean up Chinese shit. And none of the legislators say like, oh, we want to tax China for all the freaking garbage they are bringing to the United States. None. You see the streets. I mean, I just show you right here. This is just right here, the beautiful park. And I don't know if they already came sanitation. I don't know how often sanitation come here. I see them like, well, I come here at all hours of the day, so I wouldn't know, you know. So they said it was gangsters, and as you can see, look, They look like crackers. You can see the skin on their hands. But it don't matter. In their people's minds already, everybody associates shootings with African Americans. So they put that picture over there. This was in Corona. This shit was on July 31st. But it made it to the cover because they got no news to report. I mean, crime rates in New York City are the lowest because people are terrified. People are terrified how they have the power just to blast your picture. As you know, I went to, I was talking the other day, I went to the group and this Puerto Rican guy, just because he made a comment, I think it was like 3 months after the Twin Towers, he went to jail for 3 years with no evidence. No evidence. They seized his computer, they kidnapped his girlfriend, his family, nothing. The guy was innocent. He did 3 years in prison. Why? Because they gotta substantiate. They had to substantiate that this was an outside job. You see, now Bushika, we're gonna believe that she actually give a damn about heterosexual African American men. Who can believe this bullshit when they are the first ones to call the police, to get rid of their problems and turn their house into a big brothel? Now they care about solitary confinement. They still have like at least 1,000 civil rights era leaders unjustly incarcerated, political prisoners, including Mumia, including Mr. Mumia. Still in jail. They can do shit. They can do shit, Anyway. Farewell for now from the acting NYC transit boss. Who give a fuck, you gotta get the service going. You cannot, I mean, there's no traffic, there's no nothing, and like, oh, you gotta wait at the station for 10 minutes. And then you get to the next station and you gotta wait again. You gotta wait again. Oh, get off the train. This train is out of service. Like, oh, we're taking the route of another train. Just like this. They toot their own horn. It's their own media. It's their own shit. And people eating this shit up. We don't celebrate International Workers' Day, but of course we have these farce. There's still several states fighting to increase minimum wage after 30 years. Look at this. What the fuck is this? Horror. I don't even know what this advertising, like all pink. Garbage. Garbage, garbage, garbage. Oh shoot. I just got unplugged. Anyway, so I guess I'm gonna leave it at that. I wanted to get that shit out of my out of the mind, you know, like how they just, I mean, this has been going on for so long, you know, like I used to, when I first got to the United Slaves, I used to worry about the debt ceiling, and like, oh my God, the debt ceiling, like, and there used to be like a lot of, you know, like social groups saying that this is crazy, this is not the solution, to raise the ceiling, and we're going to raise the ceiling and raise the ceiling. I've been hearing that probably since 1990. Since 1990, more than 30 years. No solutions, no solutions, you know. You know, they sweep it under the rug for 2 years, you know, as they did, and now it's just like, I saw some of the other videos, I mean, I saw the titles, and there was a lot of titles saying that, oh yeah, they sure will increase the ceiling again. They sure will increase the ceiling again. The party will go on. We're still gonna be able to squander on bullshit, whatever, but the future generations, the ones that they are not even born now, can you imagine they're gonna curse us out? We're gonna be cursed out. We're gonna be all these generations, you know, 90s, 80s, 90s, all these to the 21st century, we're gonna be cursed out. You know, because we're just gonna leave them with, you know, I mean, like they said, there was not even counting the debt. It was not even counting. They left it over there they stopped counting at $22 trillion. Why? I don't know. I've been trying to find out why on earth they will stop, counting the debt, because, you know, this is what you say, like, oh, we cannot ask any more loans. That's what they say. That's a lie. That is a lie. And you know, it's just a matter of time. It's just that they're going to make a new show saying that, oh, you know, we merged from this and that, we merged from that and that. So now the bill is, you know, $50 trillion, which is unpayable, especially we're so entitled. We're so entitled. I remember, I don't know if it's true, but that cost Jimmy Carter re-election, just because he suggested, oh, you know, maybe we should not be squandering so much. He did not get reelected. I mean, you can look it up. You can make your own research. This is like, that is the thing. It's just like, you know, just like, I mean, like, just think about like Monique. All she did was like, hey, African American woman, let's take a little bit more pride in our appearance. And all these maggots, they came out like, we gotta cancel that bitch gotta die, that bitch gotta blah, 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 blah. Like, that's all she said. That's all she said. She said, like, you know, everywhere I go, I see African American with bonnets and flip-flops. And saying, you know, our children deserve better. Our children deserve, you know, to see their own mother, you know, with some freaking dignity. Oh no, she became public enemy number one. Anybody who attempt to tell, you know, African American women, like, hey, you know, those leggings or those thighs, you know, they're not a good look. They poke your eyes out, call you all kinds of, you know, labels, you know, bully, troll, whatever, you know, because that's how they've been told, you know, like, oh, like, you know, the vampires, you know, just show them a crucifix and it will go away. That's how retarded and stupid they are, you know. Think like, you know, this shit is gonna last forever. No, you're being enabled, you're being, you know, I mean, there's gonna come a time that none of them is going to be able to get a college degree like the way they're getting it now, the way I get it now. When I go for electrolysis, they have this lady over there, and you know, she sent me an email, and I don't know shit, but I was able to spot you know, errors, you know, misspellings or whatever you call it. So I guess she did not even go to 5th grade. I don't know. You know, she started that email with good night. You say, good night, Brooke. I'm like, good night. I was like, okay, good night, whatever. She just emailed me to say good night. I'm like, and of course they fired her ass. She was not even there 2 weeks, because as thirsty as that place is to have a token, you know, of color, you know, as the face of that spa, it just, I mean, I've seen other two. Now they hire a gay guy. They couldn't deal with freaking Bushika. They couldn't. And I saw like 2 more, because I arrived and it was like, you know how they talk, you know, when they're like teaching them the ropes at the front desk. They were supposed to pick up the phone and book appointments and treat people like. That was it. 2 weeks, I think she lasted, and she was gone. So, you know, I was also watching this morning about the I think one of the biggest, you know, feminist icons, she quit. She quit in the middle of the Olympics in Tokyo. She just quit like that. She's like, oh, you know, I gotta go. I'm like, wow. Can you imagine if it was the other competitions that you wanted to go to the Olympics so bad? You rehearse your entire life and you're like, oh no, we're gonna give it to this maggot. And just because she won already so many medals, it's like, you don't even have the capacity to know when you already like. And it turned out she was on Ritalin. She was on crack, because that's what Ritalin is. Ritalin is crack. And in Japan, they don't allow that prescription. They have a different prescription. So she didn't have her crack pipe. So she said like, oh, I gotta quit. And then, you know, all the rest of the maggots saying like, oh, her mom just died. Her mom died, or whatever it's like. And I like Dennis Sperling, because he was saying like, you know, well, same shit happened to Mike Tyson. I think his mother had just died, whatever, and he had to go and he won. Muhammad Ali. I mean, like so many. I mean, like even freaking Michael Jackson rehearsed like 3 times a day. You know, 3 hours a day. I forgot how many, like, you know, everybody. But for us, we want like a shortcut. You know, give me a magazine and tell me, you know, oh, you know how you can skip, you know, all this bullshit and do it like in 10 minutes. We want some always, you know, I mean, it took out, you know, I think it was Jason who pointed that out. I was like, wow, this is like, he did a whole list of, you know, why we are not there yet. We're not there yet. I'm like, even, but I mean, I don't condone that. Because, you know, the population is going down, you know, so much, you know, like Canada is empty, Russia is empty, Africa is severely underpopulated, even Mexico, we only have 130 million people, you know, that's nothing. So they have succeeded. And the worst part is that some of the richest, well, I think every state is very rich in minerals and stuff, but the northern states, I just learned, the state of Sonora, that shit is really empty. And we just elected this freaking governor who is already making deals with Madeleine Albright, and he don't even know. He don't even know who he went there. He's making deals with these scumbags, you know, to give away our coltan. Coltan or coltan. It's a coltan, whatever, I don't know. Unbelievable. This freaking idiot. I mean, he was like preyed on immediately. So all these crackers, they came in last week and taking pictures and like, oh yes, we're gonna have a coalition, we're gonna like revitalize the economy, like well, the same bullshit that they always talk about. So we haven't heard from our president, but you know, he never act impulsively. But I mean, first of all, he have no capacity to negotiate unless, you know, well, they're talking about cessation, of course, because that's how the crackers, they get away with murder every time. Divide and conquer. So we don't know exactly. He's supposed to be from our political party, but he's just a sellout. He's just a sellout. I mean, it was like, you don't even know. It's like, I think it's like the Albright, what's the name of the people that he's dealing with, and he don't even know that organization. It's also the director is the Obama's defense secretary too. So this is all military. So the people will say like, oh, they come to concession land, you know, for mining. They come to concession land for mining. So why, you know, we are in talks with military people like Madeleine Albright, the old Secretary of Defense, you know, like butcher, like, you know, one of the most sadistic, you know, like Margaret Thatcher, kind of like scumbags. So at this point, this just happened last week. At this point, we don't know if this son of a bitch, he know who he's dealing with, because people are so freaking thirsty, as I was saying in the first part, that people are just like, they get some attention and they're like, oh yes, yeah, whatever, you know, like they don't even know. They don't even know. That shit just happened in Mexico with so-called cartels. It was sponsored by Obama's Operation Fast and Furious. So there's some freaking YouTubers that you know, they say, oh, I'll give you some money, you know, can you make a video about, you know, promoting this, whatever, blah, blah, blah. It's just one video. It's just one video. Come on, it's $100,000. So these freaking idiots, they don't even know that they're dealing with who they're dealing with, you know? It's like, and then it's like, oh, SOS, you know, I'm being this, I'm being that, you know, like, of course you are, idiot. Of course you are, idiot. You took already that money, and the only way out is feet first. That's the only way out, feet first. If you want the way out, and it's just like to think, you know, the people is so freaking stupid not to see that our fight is your fight. You know, literally. I mean, like, Mexico is again this shit. Mexico is like saving the whole freaking planet. There's no other you know, level of resistance like the one that we're putting out. There's not. So anyway, so I'm gonna start talking in my native tongue later.